And I pulled that song up on YouTube and I played it, and my whole body was flooded with this electric charge and energy and this overwhelming sense of love and peace. And I just collapsed. And I was started bawling and I collapsed. And then I was above myself. He tapped into my father and told me that he had specific heavy metals in his blood, and that he was constipated and all these different things. And I was still a skeptic. So I called my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, are these the metals in your blood? And he's like, how the hell do you know that? And I was like, are you constipated? And he's like, what? I was like, are you constipated? He's like, why are you asking me all these questions? And I was like, oh, I'm working with a healer. And he said, this is what's going on with you. He's like, yeah, I haven't gone in 3 days, because he was on all these narcotics for colon cancer. And a lot of what we're going through now, I was shown 5 years ago in my first Ibogaine experience. The things that I think that are coming up that haven't played out, 90% of everything I was shown has played out outside of a financial reset that liberates humanity.
That's coming.
And yeah.
All right. Hello, my friends. I'm here with Tony Piazza. He's a veteran, he's a healer, and he's got quite a few stories. And so, welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, why don't we start with a little bit of background on you, and then maybe we can get into your NDE, and then we'll go from there and we'll see where it ends up.
Okay, awesome. So, I had my awakening in early 2018 after a suicide attempt and divine intervention, where I had a near-death experience / out-of-body experience, vivid dreams and events, and pulled out of my body wrapped in the unconditional love of God. And it changed me forever. And I committed myself to this path that was then opened for me. And so I've traveled the world working with shamans and healers and holistic doctors around the world. A lot of it has been in frequency, light, and sound therapies, as well as sacred plant medicine ceremonies for deep spiritual healing and remembering on the soul level.
Boy, there's a lot to unpack there, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've spent over 500 hours out of my body in these sacred ceremonies, diving into the deepest parts of myself for healing, and going into my blind spots and seeing where love was absent, or I was blocking myself in certain aspects of my life, how I treated others, how I'm showing up in my life, and much more. So I've gone into past lives, I've gone into in my other lifetimes, I've gone through my life review, I've gone into future events. So it's kind of broad. I can talk about a lot of things. So.
Yeah, can I ask you, was your suicide related to your service as a veteran?
Yeah, so I broke my back, blew out my shoulders, and had compressed discs and nerve damage that atrophied my right arm till it was 5 inches smaller than my left. So I was in intense and severe nerve pain, and I had PTSD, and I used to use alcohol as an outlet, but I ended up getting a DUI, and then I was on probation. So my outlets growing up, because I grew up in a very abusive home, were always the gym, football, and alcohol. And then all of those outlets were taken from me, and I was stuck in these endless cycles of appointments at the VA hospital, where all they did was give me pills and threw me back to the street. So it wore me down over the years until it got to that point. Yeah.
Wow. Are you a combat vet?
Yeah, I was in the Navy on the aircraft carrier. They're directing aircraft and doing crash and salvage firefighting.
Okay.
CVN 77 on the Bush. I got tripped up down a ladder well. It's not a cool story. I had one foot on the first step, and then someone kicked my foot behind me, and I went falling forward and blocked my head from hitting the hatch. And then my leg swung out, and I went straight down, and I grabbed the rail and then blew out my shoulders, ripped muscles off my sternum, and broke my back. And I laughed it off initially because of the adrenaline, and then went to sleep, and then I woke up and I couldn't breathe. And so it was like a year of trying to tough out my injuries before getting an MRI and them telling me I needed surgeries and stuff. And that's when I went to shore duty after 4 years. So
Yeah, doesn't sound like much fun at all. So what happens next? You get home, you go through. Well, I imagine probably you probably started some of the destructive behavior before you got out. Is that correct?
yeah, I used to binge drink all through high school and stuff. So I continued drinking after my surgery. I was super depressed because I mean, I was always in shape and I was benching like 450 pounds, and that was like a major outlet for me. So then when that was taken from me, it was really rough. And then I was drinking and I was on Percocets, and
Oh boy.
I started out needing a couple, then four, and then several times a day. And then I cut myself off cold turkey, and I ended up putting my roommate's brand new 1911 Kimber to my head and hitting the safety and pulling the trigger. And somehow, through another divine intervention, the safety was on by a hair. And I had flashes of like seeing my mom and what it would do. And so I held off. And then I went through many more trials and the worsening of my nerve damage. So a couple of years later is when I ended up attempting again.
Now, can you elaborate a little bit on your NDE? What did you experience? What did you learn?
So leading up to it, I was essentially praying for my organs to give out, and I was drinking like a bottle or two of whiskey a day and doing cocaine and just praying for my organs to give out. I was peeing blood, and it was getting real dark. I ended up falling asleep on my back and throwing up, and my girlfriend couldn't move me. And then something came over me to where I got up robotically and went and showered. And the next day, I turned myself into the VA hospital for suicide. And that was one of the hardest walks of my life, was asking for help. Once I went in there, they convinced me to claim the disability that I didn't think I deserved. And I was in there for 4 days. And on the fourth day, I got out, and it was like 2 p.m. I let my puppy out. I got a puppy the day after I almost died. And then so I let him outside in front of me, and we had an apartment in Phoenix, and there was a big grass patch in the middle. So the puppy runs out in front of me, and then I had a hawk fly over my head, and I thought it was going to get my dog, and it ended up snatching a bird right next to him and then flying off to my left. And I see two butterflies spiraling, and it was really weird. I don't know why it stuck in my head, but I lived in the city, so you never see hawks anyways. So then that night, the cop showed up at my door to take me to jail because I missed my probation hearing while I was in the psych ward. And at that point, I had been through so much that my soul was trying to leave my body. I was stumbling around, like fainting, and my girlfriend didn't know what to do. She'd never seen me like that. And I'm stumbling around. I had thoughts like, if the cops get in my house, I'm slitting my throat and ending this. I can't handle anymore. And so I fall on the ground, and then I just said, if there is a God, please make them go away. I'll do whatever you want. And so then the cops leave. And then that night I had very vivid dreams about the Holy Trinity, man and woman combining into light, frequency and vibration. And I was woken up by three loud bangs on my door at 3 a.m. And I get up, the dog's barking, no one's there, and I start getting downloads of information, thinking I'm going insane. And I'm researching, copy and pasting things into my notes. And it led to the Trinity, and then Bach, the composer, and his compositions on the Trinity. And I pasted all of those into my notes, and there was one highlighted in blue that said Saint Michael, who I'm named after, my middle name. And I pulled that song up on YouTube and I played it, and my whole body was flooded with this electric charge and energy and this overwhelming sense of love and peace. And I just collapsed. And I started bawling, and I collapsed. And then I was above myself, looking at me on the floor. And I just said, I am so sorry for how I've been living. Please give me guidance and use me as a conduit. And it was this really profound moment. And then for the next 3 days, I had these events happening where I'm researching all of this stuff. I ended up taking my dog out that following day to a different part of the complex, and he was silver with green eyes. So I stood him on this old gray stump, and I take a picture of him, and I look left, and there's two bird wings laying perfectly like in the gravel with no other part of the bird. And I just get a download of fallen angels, and all my hair stands up. So then I'm researching all of that. That night I went to sleep, and I had a dream that my friend I had known since fifth grade, Brandon, was in my apartment, and he was yelling, "The cops are here, the cops are here." And so I ran out and looked out the window, and no one was there, but my phone on the counter rang, and this is all in my dream. And so I pick it up, and I'm like, hello, and you can hear people talking almost like when you get butt dialed. And then it gets really clear, and it goes, he's going to be the one that's stepping up. And I was like, are they talking about me? And it registered as a yes. We're going to push this to happen faster than we expected. We're giving him keys to the fourth. And then I was awake, 3 in the morning, flooded with energies. It was going into biblical stuff. I'm pacing my house, thinking I'm going insane, and I feel like I'm missing something. So then I went to go walk outside barefoot, which I never used to do. I used to wear shoes into the lake. So I opened my door, and as I opened the door, three $1 bills fell from my door and landed next to a rock that had the engraving that said "Live" on it. And I was like, who is effing with me? Who's messing with me right now?
Yeah.
And so I go walk and I stand in that grass patch and I'm looking around and I look back towards my apartment and there's a tree and the outline's kind of like the shape of a heart and there's a star above it. So I was like, that's weird. Take a picture. I download the star app, look at it, and it's star group Karina and her sign Sagittarius. And that's my girlfriend and her sign in the other room. So I had never looked at the stars in my life. So I just sat down and I was like, what do you want from me? And then the third night, they were teaching me how to navigate the spiritual realms. And they said, are you sure you want to take this path? It's not easy. And I said, I humbly accept. Please just give me guidance and use me as a conduit. And then it showed me falling to a knee and standing back up with golden armor. And they said, so and so can no longer touch you anymore. And then I'm up at 3 in the morning, more downloads. And so from then on, I went down deep rabbit holes into frequency and vibration and all these spiritual concepts, and doors just opened. And I worked with Christian healers, and then I was in the jungle. And so it's kind of just evolved.
Wow.
Yeah.
All these different things. A lot going on there.
I don't know if I'd call it an NDE or out of body experience, but it was because it wasn't clinically dead. I don't know how long I had been out when my girlfriend was messing with me, but I had so many divine interventions and crazy things beyond like the human mind's conception so that I couldn't deny it in order for me to wake up, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean that people argue over that. I tend to think that the same thing is if you're on the other side, you're on the other side. You don't necessarily have to be, you know, clinically dead or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
some people will argue that, but that's okay.
Yeah, the old me definitely died that day. I know that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. But did it take you a while to unpack all of this stuff? I mean, were you like, "What in the hell am I going insane, or what?" Or what? You know, for a while after that, but you knew you had some sort of a change already.
It was so drastic, and I was in it 100% because of how spirit was moving through me. Um, there were so many synchronistic events, and just I was crying from gratitude nonstop because it would just be like the puzzle pieces would be laid out. I didn't have to seek; it would just like happen, and I'd be guided and meet this person, or I'd look up this, and then it'd lead to this. It was just completely organic and profound. And I committed myself from that moment. Like I knew God was real. And I grew up religious. Like I was raised Catholic and I hated religion because all I saw was hypocrisy and judgment and guilt and shame and condemning others and the complete opposite of what I would say God is. And so I didn't know if there was a creator. And then when I experienced that, I knew 1,000%. And I knew that that love is God, right? So it's so profound and purifying and humbling, and there is no judgment, and it's liberating, and it empowers you to truly walk the path and liberate yourself from all the programs and the belief systems that like try to keep you small and unworthy, you know? So,
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. Even the scriptures teach that God is love. And
mhm.
so, which seems to get bypassed by a lot of adherence to the scripture.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's some incredible stuff there. What about your addictions? Did your addictions like seem to go away instantly, or
they
did you
were
still
gone.
they were
Yeah.
gone? That's
I
awesome.
even like, yeah, everything was gone. And even like porn and stuff that eliminated immediately. I was so dedicated to purifying my heart and mind and applying it. And yeah, I was in it all the way. I wasn't questioning at that point. I think because of how drastic it was and how that experience of being pulled to the other side changed me forever to the point where like I'm not questioning this. I'm going to lean in. And then I went and got certified through the state of Arizona for suicide intervention and peer support to help others. And there I met another veteran who had a near-death experience when he was in on the table. And so he invited me to lunch the first day of class just because he felt like he needed to talk to me. And I told him my story, and he invited me to church, which I wasn't a big fan of. But I was like, I'm getting all these downloads. I'll just go see what happens, you know? So we went, church was good, but then they had men's Bible study group afterwards. And everyone was talking about their spiritual gifts and why they're here. And at the end, they asked for prayer. And I forgot to mention this. After my awakening, I was with a narcissist like girlfriend who was very manipulative. And so every day I would wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and listen to like Neville Goddard, Abraham Hicks, and rewire my subconscious mind and reclaim my power. And she hated it. So I kicked her out, and I was nearly homeless, living off of like less than 150 a month for food and transportation. And prior to that, I was dealing drugs, and I could have easily gotten in front of cocaine and went back to doing that. But I told God, I was like, if you want me homeless, I'll be homeless. Like I trust whatever it is that you need from me, you know? So anyways, at this, they asked for prayer, and I asked for healing of my physical body and also help financially. And then I just started crying from gratitude. And the guy across from me stands up, and he's like, he puts his hand up and he's like, he's being touched right now. And my collarbone popped back into place without him touching me. And I was just sitting there in shock and in tears. And I was like, what is happening? You know? And then he invited me over to his house the next day for dinner. And I went. He came and picked me up. I didn't have a vehicle at the time. And we went and ate. And right when I get into his house, he has an old school Rife machine that he's been healing people with and homeless people. And he had selenite crystals, and he had CDs everywhere that were charged with over 8,000 frequencies. And he was charging homeless people's water with silver, so colloidal silver frequencies, and healing them. And I was just like, this is all the stuff I'd been researching, you know? So he
Wow.
was teaching me muscle testing and all that.
For the audience who doesn't know, can you give us a brief explanation of what a Rife machine is? I know what it is. I've studied a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah, so Rife was in the early 1900s, and he developed, I think it was a microscope that could observe bacteria and virus cells based on the light they refracted. And then he created frequency machines that could basically match the vibration of those unhealthy, toxic cells and essentially explode them and eliminate them and cure cancers and all illness and disease. And he was celebrated. And then all of a sudden, the Rothschilds buried his work. I don't know if you're going to have to not put that word on the YouTube, but so his frequency devices have different programs and things for like killing parasites and different illness and disease and systems in the body. So
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, a lot of people don't know about that, and it seems to be making a comeback somewhat. So
hmm yeah, there's a lot of frequency devices coming out and light and sound. We're getting back to true health and harmony, and I've helped a lot of people get off all their meds and actually start healing from the root cause just with frequency devices. So
that's awesome. You changed your life. You started helping other people who were suicidal and so on, and take us from there.
So then at that guy's house, he puts me on the table to work on me and had me help hold selenite crystals. And I was on a massage table with all these CDs with Rife frequencies programmed in them. And my heart's just wide open. And he kept leaving the room, and he came back in, and he's like teary eyed. And he's like, I can't believe this. I've never met anyone like me. Did you know that you can heal with your hands? And I was like, no. And so he was teaching me muscle testing, and he was taught me like quantum healing. So he could tap into anyone based off their photo or name, birthday, and birthplace and do muscle testing. He had all these charts for quantum healing. And then we would send frequencies long distance, and miracles would happen. And he tapped into my father and told me that he had specific heavy metals in his blood, and that he was constipated and all these different things. And I was still a skeptic. So I called my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, are these the metals in your blood? And he's like, how the hell do you know that? And I was like, are you constipated? And he's like, what? I was like, are you constipated? He's like, why are you asking me all these questions? And I was like, well, I'm working with a healer. And he said, this is what's going on with you. He's like, yeah, I haven't gone in 3 days because he was on all these narcotics for colon cancer. And so I was like, well, can we send you healing? And he's like, I'll take anything I can get. And so he sent long distance healing. And he texted me the next day that he was able to go to like sleep. He slept the best he had in a long time. He was able to go to the bathroom and things were improving. And then so he's teaching me all this, and then he was taking me to the parks to help homeless people. And at that point, it overwhelmed me because I could feel all of their pain. And like, I didn't have good shields up at that time. My heart was wide open. So I would be exhausted after going and doing that. And then he would also take me to hospitals where I'd place my hands on people and things would happen. So it was a big battle within my own mind to accept and trust these things because it was a lot to go into immediately. And then I went to massage school because the downloads I was getting, I know that they were truly tapped into the divine through their faith and belief because they were doing miracle healings. But I was getting so much more information outside of the scope of the religious dogma. And so I went to school at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts in Arizona for massage therapy and energy work. And there I learned the power of touch and massage, and it was incredible. And then when I would put my hands on people in class, they would start crying and things would happen. So it was just kind of an evolution of or expansion of everything I've learned and continued on. And then 7 months into school, I had an old friend contact me because of my spiritual posts on Facebook, and he thought I had done ayahuasca. And I said, no, I haven't, but I want to. And so I had bought in what's called hape. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, I haven't heard of that.
It's like a finely ground tobacco and plants from the Amazon, and it's a snuff that's blown up your nose. It's also called the breath of God, but it's meant to clear your energy field and help release trauma and really ground and connect you into the unity field of connection. So I don't know when I bought this, but I had these things and I told him I had them. And I was like, I don't even know what to do with these. And he's like, I'll come over and facilitate it for you. And so I have the recording on my social media, but it's blown up your nose. The one I had was called Warrior Heart. And so you sit there and then the other person blows it up your nose, both nostrils, one at a time. And when it hits, it feels like your brain is on fire. It's very jolting. Essentially, my head blew back and I went through states of like shock and then pure euphoria. And then it took me into the like old trauma from childhood that I didn't remember. And I was just bawling and releasing it. And then when I came to, like the main signs have always been hummingbirds, dragonflies, and butterflies in my awakening, like winks from the universe. And so right when I came out of that, I'm crying and I open my eyes and there's a hummingbird right in my face and then just took off. And so that was another sign for me. So that was my first plant medicine, I guess you'd say. And then he introduced me to the shaman and I sat in my first ayahuasca ceremony. And that was probably about a year after my awakening. So
Wow. How did that go?
so my first ayahuasca ceremony, I no longer feared death, right? So, and I was doing a lot of work in rewiring my subconscious. I had a really good outlook, zero fear, and just really wanting to purify my heart and mind to follow my path. So I surrendered to the medicine really well. I went through many forms of healing of trauma that I had forgotten. I didn't really remember a lot of my childhood, so a lot of that. I had physical or like what I would call psychic or cosmic surgeries done where spirit would like had me yawn until my jaw would lock. And then I felt them working inside of my body, up and down my spine, and tears are just pouring out of me. And then I was contacting like these ancient wise beings, and they were scanning the purity of my heart and intentions, and then agreeing to give me wisdom and healing. And I was able to come in and out of the medicine at will, where most people aren't able to do that. I was also taught how to reach inside of my body and pull out these stuck energies instead of purging like other people. I had all these, and then when I'm telling other people that it was about it, they're like, wait, this is your first ceremony? I'm like, yeah, why is this? They're like, that's not normal, dude. And so I was told that I was going to be working with these medicines the rest of my life. And I told the shaman that, and he kind of smiled at me. And then he told me that he thinks I was sent from God. And so I actually tried running from this and going and living in Bali after this. I got a one-way ticket, and I was going to go live with an artist friend. At the airport, they said I was 5 minutes late to check my bags. And so I went back to my Airbnb. I woke up at like 10 a.m. the next morning to a voicemail from the VA hospital in Wyoming saying I needed to be back in Wyoming to be reevaluated for my to increase my disability benefit. So from LA, I went back to Arizona and I sat in another ceremony. And then their spirit told me that I'm going to be going to the jungle to prepare to absorb all this information and wisdom. And I was like, I don't have money for that. And she's like, don't worry about the money, you're going. And so it's like, okay. And so I went back to Wyoming, got a big back pay check, and then ended up in the jungle for a month where I went through more healing and guidance by spirit and how to do psychic surgeries and healing and grounding people and clearing their energy and things like that.
Wow, that's quite a story. I like that. I've never been inclined to try ayahuasca because of the purging.
Yeah, yeah. There's other medicines. There's other
Yeah,
medicines that are good. Ayahuasca, I feel like if I sit in ayahuasca and I don't purge, it wasn't a strong enough ceremony because it's really energetic. A lot of people have that feeling around. I did at first too. I didn't want to puke. You know, I felt like it was like being weak or just not enjoyable in the first place. But when you're doing it, you are you're also told for many times like what you are purging from your energetic body, and then it makes sense, and then you feel amazing because you're not just purging like physical stuff, you're purging energetic that has been weighed on you for your whole entire life, because we all have a backpack full of rocks. You know, we got trauma, there's a rock, we got all this stuff, and we have all this that we're lugging around all the time. And when you go into these ceremonies, you get to put that bag down and thank it and see it for what it was, and then let it all go so that you can truly walk in your path with love and compassion and non-judgment and forgiveness for yourself and others. So yeah, it's not for everybody, but
and maybe mushrooms or something like that. But I did mushrooms when I was younger, but I wasn't doing it for spiritual reasons, you know. I was doing it for recreation. You know, I wish I would have done it for spiritual reasons back then too. You know, I might have got on the path a little bit sooner. But for me, it was more of a over a long period of time and study, and I went through religion and all these kinds of things. But well, wow, Tony,
oh yeah. Yeah, it was a lonely journey, but I had my dog, you know, so it was he's a little light in my world, and I actually had to leave him behind with my mom when I went to the jungle. Spirit made me leave him, and it was very hard because like leaving your child that was there for you through your whole awakening while everyone else abandoned you. And but he lived a good life. He's living a good life in Wyoming, you know, hunting, fishing, and things like that. But I still carry guilt for leaving him behind, even though he had a great life. He's at my mom's right now, so I'll eventually get him back. But I haven't been in a place where I'd feel comfortable having him because we don't have a yard, and you know what I'm saying. So,
yeah.
um, but with the yeah, so I did work with Aya, and then after my jungle trip, I ended up being invited to live in the house with the shaman and the wife that took us down there. And then I was helping facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies for 30 plus people. We helped special forces and veterans and people from all walks of life. And it really, my gifts and abilities evolved the more I sat and learned and walked my path. And then I was guided to Costa Rica right before COVID, and it was supposed to be a 9 day trip, and then all flights were canceled on the ninth day, and we stayed there for eight. I stayed there for 8 months. My girlfriend stayed for 10, but there all the doors opened for me again. Extremely cheap prices on housing. I met a guy who used to be a real estate mogul down there, and then he had his spiritual awakening, and now he serves bufo, which is the toad, and that one is a very powerful. I do not recommend to most people. If it's like a complete dissolving of your identity all the way back to source. So it's a dissolving of everything you think you are back into source and the Big Bang, and it's a big death and rebirth. And it's a really good reset. Like you've seen Mike Tyson and those guys talk about it, where you go meet God, and but it's also very traumatic for some people that are not ready for that type of experience. But if you have a strong ego and you're in a very dark place and you can't surrender in the other medicines, that one will blast you through. And then my girlfriend started working for a doctor helping Navy SEALs with Ibogaine. So I got to sit with Ibogaine, and that is one of my favorite medicine. It is 16 to 24 hours long. My first ceremony was 24. And that is when I went through my life review. I traveled the cosmos. I worked with ET beings. I had surgeries on my bodies. Went through I went, it was in my Akashic records of my soul, and I asked like how many times have I incarnated, and it was so far, it was like the beginning of time, and I was just in shock. And then I was like, well, how many times on Earth? And it was like 1,423. And then it showed me a life where a lady was planting a garden, and these are like movies directed by God. You're like in the body, third person. You're seeing everything from all angles. It's crazy, amazing. So she was planting a garden and the seed grew into a sunflower, and I was the sunflower waving at myself, and I just started laughing. So then I was like, okay, human. And then it goes into warrior lives. When I was a gladiator and I got killed by like a giant, and he killed me very quickly. So then I said, well, did I at least win any? And then it shows me killing all these people. I'm like, I don't need to see that. That was my ego. Another one, I was a knight on a horse and they killed my horse out from under me and stabbed me through my side. I had my head in the ground and I was just driving my legs until I bled out and died. Another one, I was a female and I was in the body and I saw my two cloth shoes and I just felt really weak. And then it panned out third person and two men were dragging me by my arms and they tarred my face and chest and lit me on fire and dropped me on the path. And then I saw like the Salem witch trial stuff. I was crushed by a stone catapult, like those old war things where they launch the big boulders. I
Wow.
was a warrior running, and then I stopped and ran the other way. And then the boulder lands, bounces, and crushes me, and my legs were mangled out the back. Another one, I was a healer in Mongolia, and people were like bowing and cleaning my feet. And then I was doing healing work on them at the top of a mountaintop. I went through the history of Earth and saw different eras where we were far more advanced, like superhuman beings. And yeah, just through different, all the wars on Earth. It was, I saw a lot in that. I even went into underground bases where they're doing DNA experiments and creating things that are not of God with no soul spark and harvesting humans and doing really dark things. And then I was also with angels. Archangel Michael was actually standing clear as day next to me during my ceremony. And then I also had visions of being in a giant cathedral with angels lining the walls and receiving an award in there. I saw unicorns and they're very real. And the thing is, like, people think these medicines are like you're tripping, you know, but Ibogaine is clear, literal visions like me and you talking right now. When I saw the unicorn, it was like looking at a horse like 10 feet from me, and it had like metallic sheen white fur. And I was just like, and I had nurses there. So I'm yelling out things that I'm seeing to the nurses so they can take notes. And I said, holy shit, unicorns are real. And they just start laughing at me. And then it was basically showing me that everything exists on some dimensional reality and stuff. And the artists and people are picking up on this, but it exists somewhere because we're not their prime original creators, right? So we can tap into these things, but ultimately, we have all these gifts and abilities that have been buried and hidden, and so many limiting beliefs and trauma and karmic cycles that we're working through from other lifetimes. And so it's very complex, but at the same time, it's very simple. We're here to heal and live from unconditional love and compassion and trust and faith and non-judgment and just be living examples and follow our guidance. And we each have unique gifts and abilities, and we've cultivated these throughout many lifetimes. So we're all in the process of remembering those and who we are on a soul level. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that's bubbling up right now in humanity that people are freaking out about is actually so that we can deal with it and heal it and release
Mhm.
it, so to speak. But yeah, I had never heard of ibogaine before until I saw the Joe Rogan interview with Brian Hubbard. I was like, how come I've never heard of this before? So I went down the rabbit hole and did a bunch of research, and then, of course, that's how I came across you.
Yeah,
Well, I've done mushrooms before, and I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just do that, but I don't even know where to get them anymore, you know?
I do.
Well, I live in Idaho, and they're still illegal here, so ibogaine was kind of calling to me, and so I was thinking I need to try that stuff and see how it works. I've been working on myself for a lot of years, but I'm sure I still have a lot of things that I'm stuck on that I need to get out of there.
Yeah, we all have blind spots. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you're interested in ibogaine, we could talk. I know people who facilitate that, and then I also know places outside of the country if you want to do it in more of a clinical. It just depends, but it's a very powerful. You want to get your heart checked. They had me at a heart monitor and all sorts of stuff. You have to get like an EKG done, make sure you don't have any heart defects, and then you have to do a liver enzyme panel because it's really hard on the body. The people that die on this medicine, it's from Africa, so
right.
most people know it for addiction and PSD recovery
Hmm.
because it completely wipes your system clean and eliminates addictions. But it's also very profound for your own spiritual healing and growth and seeing like you have direct access to remote view at any point in time, and your soul is mainly your guide, right? So your higher self will show you the things that you need to be seeing, but you also have opportunity to ask questions and be shown directly. And a lot of what we're going through now, I was shown 5 years ago in my first Ibogaine experience. The things that I think that are coming up that haven't played out, 90% of everything I was shown has played out outside of a financial reset that
That's
liberates humanity.
that's coming.
And yeah, and then after that, there's a new golden age that's going to be ushered in, and solar flashes until a grand solar flash that I believe is going to be the big cutoff point for the ascension for those souls that are pure of heart and doing the work. And then it's talked about in
That's
the Bible. One will be taken, one will be left, and then you got
yeah,
Dolores Cannon talking about the split, and so that's
yeah.
what we have to prepare for.
I agree. Yeah, it's funny you brought that up. I was just reading something yesterday, maybe, about the Flash, and I've read about this recently. And of course, my wife and I, we discuss this sort of thing on occasion. And so, what I read yesterday, they were saying somewhere between now and the year 2030,
Yeah,
the big Flash. So, I always pay more attention when somebody doesn't give a date. They just give a kind of a time frame because knowing what I know about the other side, and I'm sure you would probably agree with this, that very difficult to give a time frame over there because time doesn't work there like it does here.
yeah, it's hard to pinpoint time. Like when I saw all that stuff, I thought it was happening then, and I'm here 5 years later and it's starting, you know? So it's like it felt urgent in my visions, and then it took time to unfold. Plus, you have so many variables that can impact the timeline. So there's like I what I call the collective dream, agreed to dream, and the various timeline shifts that can happen within that, and then your own timeline within that that you can impact based on your energy and attention and vibration. Just like I was guided out of the country right before COVID, everyone out it was fighting over toilet paper, and I'm sitting on a beach, like enjoying myself and having these profound experiences. So I think if you're tapped in and tuned to your inner guidance, you'll be guided away like into safety. But I did see some events. I saw some kind of cataclysm in Illinois or Louisiana, New Orleans or something.
Hmm.
I saw thousands of dead bodies wrapped in white plastic on floating barges. I did see China preparing for war, but I didn't see a war happen. I saw a change in flag that was a red flag. And then I saw the collapse of Wall Street and potentially something in California, but I don't remember what it was. So I don't know if it was these fires or if there's going to be a tsunami type thing. But we're going to go through some world like shifts, and then you have the solar flash. What I was shown I saw the star, or I don't know if it was our sun or us star, and it was building and then basically sending these waves that are helping humanity awaken, right, and elevating the frequency of the planet until there's one mass one. And then all these other people talk about it too. So the grand solar flash and pole shift, and someone that I don't know if you've heard of Robert Edward Grant.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love his stuff.
Yeah, he's great. If you listen to his hypnotherapy session, he has three now, but his first one kind of goes into this um, with Sarah Breskman.
QHHT, yeah.
Yeah, the Sarah Breskman Cosme, and he goes into this. And I was told by several channelers that I was there for the building of the pyramids, and I still doubted it until I saw it myself in Ibogaine. And I watched as we were levitating stones. All of us were focused, and there were some of us just levitated them, others were pushing them into place, and it was crazy, amazing. But he goes into that, and he goes into the solar flash and what to expect after, where essentially we are going to reverse age to the age of 35 and have perfectly healthy bodies and live in unity consciousness. So when I just did Ibogaine again just recently in August, and that
Mhm.
one was 37 hours long. I'm 37 years old,
Wow.
and 137 is the prime frequency of the King's Chamber the pyramid. So I found all that out after
Yeah. There's a
with
synchronicity right there, huh?
yeah, and so I went through and I saw how the election would play out, which I shared 3 months before it happened, and it happened exactly like I said it would. I saw Trump winning, and then I saw the financial like reset and mass hoarded wealth redistributed to humanity. And then later it showed me the golden age, and I knew for a fact that I had locked this in for myself and whoever's on my timeline. But this is I felt like I had a physical crown on my head, and I'm walking outside on the earth, and I kept doing this because it feels like it's solid crown, but my crown chakra was just blasting open, and I was filled with so much unconditional love, joy, and bliss that it was so euphoric and better than any orgasm you could ever have. And it was just this state of being that was so profound, and I was just crying and soaking it in. And I was able to telepathically communicate with the earth, the land, the trees, the plants, the animals, and bless everything in a sacred like light language that I was speaking. And it was just knowing, like, I'm getting chills bad.
Me too. I can feel it, brother.
Yeah.
I
So
can feel it just from you talking about it.
it's so profound, and there's no more lower mind, meaning no negative thoughts, no doubts. It's like this pure knowing and divine clarity of unity, consciousness, and love, to where what we everything we do is blessed, and we bless everything. So it's close. We just have to make it to 2030.
So Trump's going to make it through the inauguration then, because everybody's freaking out about that right now. So
I saw them attempting to steal and funnel votes and steal the election, and Trump winning. And then I saw it didn't show me anything after that. It just showed like a celebration in him, and then it showed the golden age
okay,
um, with all countries flourishing. Like it was profound.
it's interesting because he's said that a few times that we're entering the golden age.
Right. And then he says that. Yeah. I was like, holy shit. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of crazy conspiracies that they think Trump's part of the dark side. And the thing is,
yeah.
I'm not attached to individuals or beliefs, because I've found that certain beliefs and stuff can serve you for a period of time, but because of all the death and rebirths I've gone through, like I don't cling to anything, because then I block myself from expansion. So I've never voted in my life until this recent one. Um, I was never into politics, didn't care about Trump, didn't really know who he was. And then I had my Ibogaine, and my first Ibogaine that I was telling you about. When I would ask questions to the universe, this is so funny how the spirit did this. It showed me as like and it was early in my journey, so I didn't know good questions to ask, right? I'm still kind of new to all of it. And so it shows me as a homeless beggar on the street asking, standing there, and then Trump's limo pulls up, and then I knock on the window and he rolls it down, and it's like the question I'm asking, and if it's a yes, he'll give me a thumbs up. If it's a no, he'll go like this. And if I won't let the question go, he yells at me. I was like, why is Trump in my visions? And then he tells me to do an Epsom salt bath. And the next day, I get a reading from my Akashic records, and they said my guides want me to take an Epsom salt bath. And I was like, holy shit, Trump just told me to do that. Like, what is going on here? And so he's always been shown as a positive character in my visions. And I know it's hard. And then we have the overlapping timeline theory where those of us that are really ready for this new golden age are seeing evidence for it. And then those that are in the doom and gloom and fear are seeing evidence for that, right? So I think that's where the solar flash comes in to separate and split those things, right? Are we done with the duality, polarity battling, or do we want to continue that and then experience that? Because to the soul, it doesn't matter. It's all experience. So we
Yeah,
choose based on our attention, intention, and our own frequency and vibration. So
yeah, I was just going to say it's up to each individual which timeline they're going to be on. Um,
yeah.
I did a video on it a while back, and I got called crazy for saying that, but so
Well, I think the ego of people think it's cruel that you would be okay with abandoning people, but that's because they're not seeing it from the soul perspective that we all return to the same place. And these lives are simply for us to learn lessons directly through physical reality. We're eternal. So it's not like you're getting abandoned. You're choosing your path, and it requires accountability. Like,
I also teach or say that everything is happening is to move us forward in evolution. You know, whether it's good or bad is only by our perception. And
right.
so that's one thing that changed my life when I started seeing things as, that normally you would go, oh my God, it sounds terrible. Wait a minute, this is actually, there's a purpose to this. It's moving me forward, or it's bringing something up I need to heal, or, or making me reevaluate my life or whatever.
Yeah. A lot of it's paradoxical. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, but through our pain, if we can step back and instead of react, we can respond to life with more wisdom and patience and compassion and curiosity. Try to find the lesson in what's going on and not go into victimhood mentality. That was something I had to climb out of, right? Because I was
Yeah.
deep in it when I was injured. And
But look what it did for you. Look at you now.
right.
So
Yeah.
you got to go back and, times that I grew the most and changed the most were the roughest times in my life.
Yeah, the
So
pain is a huge catalyst if you can use it for that. It can also destroy you if you stay in victimhood and stuff. So that's a lot. That's why I like to help people and like share a lot of books and different things that help you change your perspective and also rewire your subconscious and start to focus on gratitude and the lesson and the wisdom and dance with life instead of resist and run.
yeah, the gratitude is a huge key, in my opinion, for that. Be thankful for all things, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That which is how we label it. But it taught me an important lesson, and it makes you who you are.
Yeah, just when stuff bad happens, I try to catch myself and just say, what good will happen or come of this, and just get curious and be like, well, like, we're here. Let's see if how we can. Are we going to go back into old patterns, or are we going to trust the process? And it usually eases the process for you when you have that mindset and you get help from the universe versus throwing fits.
Yeah, it's life changing. I do that now too. It's like, I catch myself moaning and groaning about, oh, wait a minute. Okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Usually shortly thereafter, I'll learn whatever it is, and then the so-called problem will go away. It'll dissipate because I learned the lesson, whatever it was I needed to learn from it to finally change your life and move forward. And so that's it's like you said, it can destroy you if you keep resisting
Yeah,
instead of learning.
I got
So,
beat down and destroyed for sure.
yeah.
I found from channelers later that my guides said I was so hard-headed that there was three other events that should have awakened me, but I just kept going. So it took four.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, most of us who've incarnated onto this earth at this time are the hard-headed type, anyways. That's what's taken us so long to get to this point where we're on the cusp now of a great a change, of great awakening, the golden age, what if you will.
We can have a conversation if you're curious, and I can connect you with people to talk about it to see if it's a good fit. But I am,
More looking at the spiritual side of that. I don't have any really serious addictions. I've gone on the carnivore diet, and that's been a big game changer for me. But I've only been on it for a few months. so far, but still I'm down 20 pounds, my head's clearing and that kind of thing.
That's great.
That seems to go against some of the old spiritual mindset, oh, that you should be a vegan, And I
Yeah, I've
do,
gone through all that stuff. I've been vegan. I've been like juice fasting and doing all that stuff and fruitarian and I don't in my perspective, I don't think extremes are beneficial for all people. Sure, some people might really with that, but I feel like there has to be balance, and you have to listen to your body. Like, there's different cycles, there's different blood types. You don't know the history of your soul. Like, I don't know if that has an impact on that. So I
I'm
think
sure
it's
it
best
does.
to look to eat whole foods, right? And um, cut out the processed stuff and then listen to your body. There's also DNA tests that you can take and figure that out. But I don't judge based on that. And I've been around those communities that just really false virtue signal, and they don't truly understand the nature of creation and that plants have souls too. Just because you can't hear them scream, like you're still eating living beings, right? We can't escape that. All of us have to consume. It's about how you do it. Are you honoring and respecting and having gratitude for what you're taking in and things like that? Because I mean, I do plant dietas with shamans, and these plants teach me so much and give me songs and like I mean, all of these plants that we're ingesting, these psychedelics are what? Doorways to the soul, right? You're not, it's all sacred. So yeah, do what you're called to do for sure. I serve one-on-one ceremonies for people, and I made my own medicine that's kind of like smokable ayahuasca, and it's inhaled, and you're in the spirit realm. You're aware of your body, but you're getting visions and experiences for 45 minutes to 2 hours, and
Hmm.
then you're back to normal. It's kind of like businessman's ayahuasca. You go do deep work, but you're back to normal. There's no come down. There's no purging. So it's inhaled. I lay you down, and then I have these giant 15-pound tuning forks that vibrate through your body, and I can comb your field and move energies, and I do psychic surgeries. I get visions. Just kind of depends on the person and whatever spirit's doing. But yeah, we do really powerful sessions like that. And then I do retreats too. A friend of mine also may be doing retreats with Ivy Gaines, so I'll keep you posted. But um,
Yeah, well, that sounds, what you just described sounds interesting to me too. So I'm not that far
yeah,
from Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm near
yeah,
Boise in Idaho, so
yeah.
might have to put that on the to-do list at some
Come on
point.
down. Yeah. I'll be doing retreats around the states if people have requests for that. I have Florida, New York, and California, and Colorado I'm looking at too. So, but I also, at my retreats, we also do sassafras, which is a big heart opener. It's kind of like MDMA, but more spiritual. So it's a big heart opener. People get a lot of downloads and healing, and some may get visions and clarity. And it's like really reactivating your inner child and really expanding your heart into that in the love of God, and feeling safe and secure. And so we generally open with that the first night. So everyone gets blasted, hearts blasted open, and I do work on you if I need to or whatever. But and then the next day is like a biohacking day where we have all these frequency and light and sound devices, and then the following are the Changa ceremonies, which is the medicine I just told you about. So
That's really interesting. Seems like that would be is that something that's new, or it seems like it would be really popular since minus the purging and then and no come down type of situation.
so if you look up Changa, that has been around for a little while. But typically, the Changa that you see out there is not what I make. So I think I made something that's completely different, and I need to name it. Uh,
Okay.
but normal Changa is like a DMT containing plant and then an MAOI,
Yeah.
and it's smoked, right? And it's usually 15 to 20 minutes tops.
Hmm.
My medicine's 45 minutes to 2 hours, and it includes all these sacred plants. And I've made this medicine to essentially serve the purpose that I'm doing, because a 15-minute trip isn't enough Sure, you get blown into other dimensions. It's expansive that way, but you're not getting the healing and wisdom that you can in a prolonged journey with like your guides and the galactics coming in and
Right.
doing all this work. And so I did this, and I do it in a ceremonial way, kind of implementing a lot of things I learned when we served ayahuasca. All of these medicines need to be done with the utmost reverence and respect and pure intentions. What you give to it, you get out of it. So, like cleaning up your diet, cleaning, and that means everything you're watching, listening to, really setting your intentions for your own personal and spiritual growth. And that commitment to your path, because God knows everything. So they know if you're coming in for a recreational light show or if you're coming in for deep, profound healing and wisdom, right? So the more you really genuinely think about that and lean into those journeys like that, the more you get out of it. So yeah, spirit's not dumb. I've had several people get put in the waiting room because they're not ready or not taking it serious. And so that's why you have a wide range of reports.
That's kind of probably why Ibogaine is calling to me. I'm sure you probably have something to heal, but I'm not sure what that is. But I'm like, well, you know, but I'm definitely looking for a more profound spiritual experience too. Now, I've had some profound experiences with meditation, but I'm not consistent like I would like to be. So, that got me to thinking about plant medicines. It's like, well, maybe I need something that kind of you can do all the same stuff that we're talking about through meditation, but it might take you 20 years though. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and plant medicines can, kick the door down a little quicker. And like you said, it depends on the person. Sometimes that's not a good thing for some people.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I've done enough work that it would probably be okay for me, but who knows for sure? Try
That and
it.
who you're doing it with, right? You have
Yeah.
to feel safe and secure, and they have to be experienced. Like I'm always hyper aware of how I'm showing up and how pure the purity of myself. And then I also have these gifts and abilities to like ground people, pull out entities, reach in and do surgeries kind of thing. So it helps the process big time versus there's a lot of people serving that shouldn't be that are not doing it with pure heart and intentions and ego and greed and all sorts of things. So just be mindful of that. I do know a lot of people that I trust that are truly heart centered and humble and walking the path with integrity. So there's that. You definitely want to watch for that. But yeah, these medicines are very profound and they will meet you where you're ready to surrender and meet yourself. And you will have activations of your own gifts and rememberings. It's not all just about healing. It's also about expansion and remembering and activating your soul gifts. And by shedding these programs that may be limiting you, because we all have these programs running, right? Otherwise, we'd be manifesting instantly and things like that. We have layers and layers. It's like an onion that you're pulling off until you can truly walk like Christ did, right? So it's a journey. It's not a sprint.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of that on the internet, that, oh, I'm having my spiritual awakening now, I'm awake. It's like, yeah, well, no, you're not. You may be more awake than you were, but it's not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process, in my opinion.
There's so many death and rebirths and awakenings on top of awakenings. So yeah, there's you'll learn something and then it'll be like, okay, now you learned that. Now there's this. And it's like, wait, what? Because it's like the human mind is so limited. It wants to make it this or that. And it doesn't know that there's it's so expansive that both can be true at the same time. And there's just a lot of paradoxes and people get so addicted to this is how it is. And it's like maybe for you, like that God works in through all of us in its own unique way, right? So no path is better than another. Each soul has their own path that they're choosing to experience, and we just need to honor that and not judge and just hold space from unconditional love. And if people are brought to me, and then I will make sure that I ask Spirit, like if you're truly ready to do this, and give you the best support and opportunity to do so. Cool. But I also will turn people away if I don't think they're in it for the right reasons and they're not ready to do it because I'm not going to cause someone more harm or trauma. So it's
Right,
just all
right.
of that.
That's great. So is that pretty much what you're doing now, or?
Yeah. I help people. I don't know if you've heard of Healy. It's a frequency device from Germany.
I had it until I ran across you and you mentioned it to me. So I went and looked at your site, and I actually plan on doing a session with you at some point. I just haven't had time to. I'll do a session, and maybe if you want to, at some future date or something, maybe we can do a session that's online,
Yeah, we can.
do
Yeah.
something like that, and put it out there too.
I've had it
Um,
for almost 4 years. I was introduced to it when I was in Costa Rica, and I've worked with a lot of different devices like radionics and all sorts of devices all over the place. But this one's a little portable wearable out of Germany. It's got over 10 million frequencies. It's got patented quantum sensor technology. So essentially, I can scan anyone anywhere in the world, kind of like that Christian healer I worked with when I used a picture and name. Same thing. This device does it, and
wow.
then it'll scan and pinpoint your imbalances and blockages and even like emotional trauma and subconscious blockages and limiting beliefs, and then deliver frequencies to help reharmonize and clear these things. There's a testimonials page with like 87,000 people on Facebook where it's reversing illness and disease Western medicine deems incurable. And so I share that. I do free 2 hour sessions or donation, whatever, just to educate people and allow them to experience that. Helps, it merges spirituality and science, you know. And then other than that, yeah, I just do the one-on-one.
I'll link it in the description.
But yeah, you can link it and I'll do sessions with that. And then also I can, if you have other questions about anything else during that call, you know, we can talk. So
That's awesome. I'll link that in the description so people can get in touch with you there if they want to try that out. And so you say you give us a free session so that they can try it out. I definitely want to try that out myself, so I'll do that. And then maybe in a future video, I'll explain it, or we can get together and do a live one or something.
oh
Uh,
yeah, a live one. That way you can kind of confirm or deny what it's picking up, kind of thing.
yeah.
But yeah, so it uses the quantum, and then it also has wires with wristbands or sticky electrodes, and it runs on microcurrent. And the microcurrent, you can't feel it, but it's like basically the same electrical system your body uses, and you run the program for whatever it is that comes up, and then it boosts your ATP by 500%, your protein synthesis by 70%, and your amino acid transport by 40. So it's supercharging your cells, and then based on the frequencies you're running, it's fixing whatever those fix, right? And then it also has a little Tesla.
So this is something I would wear on me to do what you're talking about, or is this something that you can do from a distance?
Yeah, so I can do distance. It's got three types of frequency: quantum, microcurrent, and then PEMF or magnetic. So the quantum, I can scan and send you frequencies. If you have it on yourself, then you run it through the microcurrent, and that's when you get the really big benefits because
Okay.
it's working on a cellular level. And then the magnetic is another coil that plugs into it where you don't have to have the wires, but you can run it, and it creates a 3 foot field of frequencies. So you can have it in your pocket and be running it for, I don't know, maybe you're tired that day, you need energy or digestion or your allergies or your eyesight. I've had people's eyes improve. I would use it for fitness, and it helps boost my strength and stability and stamina. And it also repairs my muscles in record time. So I'm barely sore for a day versus 3 or 4. It's got so many, there's vitamins and nutrients in there. You can get frequencies for wealth and abundance and like 5D consciousness. And so there's a lot.
Okay, well, there you go. You're going to get a million hits now that you said wealth and
Yeah,
abundance.
wealth and abundance and reverse aging.
Well, at my age, I'm definitely going to need that reverse aging one. And now I'm trying to get back into some semblance of shape, and but I wake up in the morning stiff, and it's different things, and so
Yeah, another thing I could share with you is a fascia program where you use a tennis ball and work it out through from the feet up. That's what I'm starting because I have all my injuries and I'm not flexible. But I found this girl, fascia work has come up a lot in my journey.
hmm,
When I was in Costa Rica, I was working with a guy who helped Olympic athletes and famous people, and he called it structural integration. Not quite Rolfing. He was like, he used his thumb to go through your fascia, and I would be screaming, cussing at him the whole time, and then I'd feel amazing. And then I just got invited to an event in Miami, and I met Gary from Human Garage. I don't know if you've heard of him.
yeah, I have actually.
Yeah, so he worked on me, and then I was crying on camera and doing all that, releasing stuff. And then I found this other program that I can send you a link to. that I'm starting. So I think fascia works. And then went to massage school. So I know all of this really, really helps the body heal.
Yeah, my wife and I did some fascia work a few years back with the Ashley Black stuff. I don't know, have you heard of her before? She's the one that made it popular, and she sells a thing that you can massage your whole body with to help break
Oh,
apart, break
really?
up your fascia. Yeah,
Yeah, consistency. Yeah, that's even with frequencies, you got to be consistent.
Well, Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Do you have a message that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think that right now, the focus for every individual is to purify their heart and mind, to forgive themselves and others, to release all judgments of self and other, and to lead a life with love and compassion and non-judgment, and show up every day the best that you can. Build momentum. Don't try to eat the elephant all at once, but just small changes daily. Build momentum and do your best to practice mindfulness and going inward and being present within your body and trying to negate the mind so that you can open your heart and mind to spirit for guidance. And we're all in this together. So if you guys ever need help, find people that are on the path that can give you tools and support in that way, because there's a lot coming up, and it's really important that we really commit to our paths at this point. So
fantastic message. Are you open to people contacting you? And if so, where would you like them to contact you at?
yeah, so Instagram, it's AM Piazza 22 for Anthony Michael. So AM Piazza 22 on Instagram. I'm way more active on X because I'm not shadow banned. So that's Awakened Veteran 22. And then I have my links on both of those if they want to book calls and look at other videos and things.
And I'll add those into the description also too. Well, Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You gave me goosebumps more than once
That's
on
good.
this, and I really enjoyed the conversation. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And we'll maybe do this again. I think I sensed that you have a lot more stories to tell. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again, Tony. I appreciate it.
Yeah, much love.
Much love to you too.